Hi everybody, this is Henry again, and we are back by popular demand for the Rebel Commander tier list. Got a lot of positive comments on the Imperial Commander tier list. I really thank you all for watching that. A lot of people were showing their support, and so I wanted to give the people what they want and come out, do the Rebel side of things. Same thing as last time. Things are going to be ordered from best up here to worst down here. I will rank them within each tier, and I'll go through that as we go through. Hopefully audio is a bit better this time. I know that I got some feedback that the audio was a bit too quiet last time, so hoping it's a bit better this time. If things still aren't fixed, just let me know in the comments. But without further ado, let's get started with the man himself, the Red Fish, Admiral Ackbar. Probably one of the most famous Rebel commanders, been in the game for so long, really classic commander. I'm going to start with him in A tier. And I kind of want to look at both sides of the coin on him. So he is very expensive. Most expensive Rebel commander in the game. And now I think he's just straight up the most expensive commander in the game now that Tarkin got priced down a little bit. 38 points is a lot to spend on your commander. And he kind of limits you to only shooting in certain ways if you want to get his effect. But the other side of that coin is adding 2 red dice to every side shot, as long as you're taking side shots, with all of your combat ships, really adds up over the course of the game. And if any of you are new to Armada, I'll try to go through each commander's ability before I really deep dive into them. Before a friendly ship's attack step, it can choose to attack from only its left and right hull zones this round. If it does, it may add 2 red dice to its attack pool while attacking a ship. The big key thing for Ackbar, and why I'm going to put him in A tier, is thermal shields are very, very good. They can only be taken by Clone Wars factions, yes, but almost any ship in the Clone Wars factions that can take a defensive retrofit is probably taking thermals, or at least very strongly considering thermals. They can really, ruin a lot of ships' shots. I wouldn't call them an oppressive force in the meta by any stretch of the imagination, but they're still probably the best defensive retrofit, best in slot for Clone Wars factions in most cases. And Ackbar gets around them beautifully. When you go to thermals something, you are only removing half the dice in the initial attack pool, and you're not taking into effect any kind of add effects, which is like a concentrate fire command adds a die while attacking. External racks adds 2 blacks while attacking. Most wanted adds a die while attacking. Well, Ackbar adds 2 dice while attacking, and so thermals doesn't touch either of those. And so a good example of that is the Giga Drill Assault Frigate, which its big thing is it's got Intel Officer, Kraken, and Shola, and slave turrets and ECMs. Slave turrets adds a die while attacking, and so that's not part of your initial pool. And then Ackbar adds 2 dice while attacking. And so if you're at long range with an assault frigate and your opponent uses thermals, you only have 3 natural red dice, and so they'll only get rid of 1 red die, and then you'll have 5 dice to throw at them, 6 with the con fire dial. And so Ackbar is really, really great at getting around thermals, and I think that that's something that's not insignificant. It's something that keeps him relevant. And he's just a ton of fun. He's pretty simple to understand. Early on, he was probably my favorite commander in the game. I really liked flying him. It's very satisfying to roll a bunch of dice. And red dice in the current meta are very, very good. And the ships he's good on are pretty good in the meta. The assault frigate has always been pretty good, at least the B. Like Home 1 MC80 is still pretty good, but mainly CR90s got better with evade changes, and he loves red dice CR90s. The fact that you can either fish for double arcs and you don't have to use his ability, or if someone scoots past you, you don't get the double, it's still 3 dice out your sides, which is not, it's very good. So Ackbar, firmly in A tier. Next up, we got one that makes me a little sad. Dodonna. First commander you get when you get that starter set. Probably almost everyone's first game playing Rebels was with Dodonna. Unfortunately, he sits in C. And I guess I should preface this now. I don't think any Rebel commanders are F tier. Just getting that out of the way early here. I don't think a single Rebel commander belongs in F. I think F is solely reserved for my friend and yours, General Constantine. Or, sorry, I think he's an Admiral. Special K, he owns F tier. He's the worst commander in the game. I don't think that any of the Rebel commanders, or spoiler alert, any of the Clone Wars commanders are F tier. They're all better than him. And so I don't think any Rebel commanders are F tier, so everything's going to be C and up here. I think they're all fine in some way, fine or better. And we'll get to that as I go through the lower ones. And speaking of one of the lower ones, Dodonna is going to sit in C tier. And it makes me sad, because he's a lot of fun. And I have good memories playing Dodonna. And I think he's a decently well-designed commander. And hey, he's 20 points, so he's very easy to bring into a fleet. But someone else in this, that the Rebels have, who I'm not going to name any names, has kind of sniped the position of best cheap commander option. And so what was once one of his bigger selling points of being the cheapest commander at 20 points kind of got taken away from him. And his ability, before an enemy ship is dealt a face-up damage card, look at the top 4 cards of the damage deck, place one on the top of the deck, and discard the others. Which, by the way, I don't know a single person who actually does that. I think most people, your opponent will just dole out 4 damage cards, you pick one of them and discard the other 3. I don't know that I've seen anyone like go through the cards and then put one back on top of the deck and look at your opponent and say, draw that, see what I gave you. I don't think I've ever seen that. I'll be honest, I didn't even know that's what the card said. But he's just not great in today's meta. He got worse after 1.5 because of PDIX, point defense ion cannons, re-rolling a lot of his crits. Crits got a lot less reliable. Evades now re-rolling stuff at close range. It's just stuff like APTs, which was his big hallmark. That's worse. It exhausts now, and it's harder to land. The things that made him tick, the ships he liked to work with, the upgrades he would take, the way you would normally get his ability off have all been made more difficult, and his price can't save him anymore because there's a better commander for that price. And so it's with a heavy heart that I have to put him down in C tier. I know a lot of people really like him. I really like him. I ran him in my for fun list at LVO for like the casual tournament on Friday. Had a grand old time, but not someone I would ever seriously consider for a super competitive list unless I was really, really wanting to run Dodonna and not someone else. Now we get to, we just talked about her, the person who replaced Dodonna at the 20-point price point, and that is Kyrsta Agate, my favorite commander in the whole game. I am not shy about saying that, and she is S tier, and I don't think that's too surprising, judging by how ubiquitous she is and the general opinion on her. She's just so good, and she's so cheap. So, just to read off here, after you deploy, gain 1 non-scatter defense token. Already pretty cool. Maybe not enough for a commander, but already pretty cool, but it gets way better. During your spend defense token step, if your speed is not 0, you may discard 1 defense token to resolve the effect of that defense token. You cannot resolve the effect of each type of defense token more than once per attack. So a couple things to break down there, and this is what makes her really good. You are kind of immune to accuracies in a way. ECM's kind of got worse because of it needs to be refreshed with tokens. You kind of have to have more of a token economy to keep it going. You can't just do it automatically every turn. And Kyrsta just says, yeah, you know what? I really don't care about your accuracy that you rolled. I'm still going to brace. Or I'm still going to salvo you. Or I'm still going to do whatever she's going to do. And that lets ships live so much longer. The fact that you don't have to worry about your opponent getting a lucky roll with like an accuracy and a bunch of damage. On ships that natively have a brace, she's fantastic. And on ships that don't, she just gives them a brace because of that first part of her ability. I think she's my favorite commander because of how flexible she is, how well she fits into almost any list, and the things she allows you to do. You know, my quote-unquote signature list has been the Assault Frigate Mark II-A with Agate on it. And giving it a salvo, or in bad matchups like against Sam's double interdictor onager list, grabbing the extra evade, or if I really needed to, grabbing the extra brace. She just gives you so much flexibility on a game-to-game basis and allows for so many cool things, like the salvo assault frigate I talked about, or let's put a brace on an MC-30, or how about we give something in evade when we're going against onagers, or heck, double brace, double redirect MC-80. She just allows for so much cool stuff, and she fits so well at 20 points, and the ability to not ever take a horrible shot because you can always spend a defense token when you need to. I think she's phenomenal. I think she's very undercosted. I'd probably bump her up at least 3 points, maybe more. Her one downside is she's very selfish. She only affects your command ship, but in a lot of cases, that's all you need. Like Dodonna helps your whole fleet, but are you even going to be able to use him a single time in the game versus, Agate's always relevant. And so I love her. I think she deserves S tier. If anyone disagrees, go ahead and come on down to Indiana. Let's have a chat. Anywho, moving on to Sato. Sato's an interesting case. I'm going to put him in B tier. I've got a very satisfying one in each tier going here. Sato is, like I said, a very interesting commander. I will confess, I have only flown him a handful of times. He's very fun to fly. He makes for very interesting games, very interesting lists, but he runs into quite a few problems. First of all, he got a little bit better in 1.5, got a points decrease, which he definitely needed. He was way overcosted before. I would say he may still be overcosted, but he also has a pretty strong ability if you can use it. His biggest issue, I think, comes in list building primarily. You need squads for his ability to work, but if you start taking too many squads, then you have less and less ships to actually get benefit from his ability. Because he does not directly help squads in any way, but he does need a good amount of squads to actually be useful. And he can be useful. He can be very good, and that's why he's in B tier. Adding, changing 2 reds to 2 blacks, or changing stuff to blues if you're fishing for accuracies for some reason. He's a very good commander, and you can do cool things throwing APTs at long range with hammerheads and MC-30s and MC-75s. So I like Sato, but like I said, if you take too many squads, you don't have enough ships, and if you don't take enough squads, you could have a whole game where you don't really get to use his ability. So he has too many things that need to work. You need to be able to get your squads in position, which is like another requirement. I guess I should read off here. While a friendly ship is attacking a ship at distance 1 of a friendly squadron, before rolling attack dice, the attacker may replace up to 2 of those dice in the attack pool with an equal number of dice of any color or colors. So the requirements are you have to have a squad. You have to have a squad at distance 1 of an enemy ship, and then you have to have them not get rid of the crits or the nice hits you just rolled. And that's another one of the big things that's going against him is, with evades becoming much more powerful and PDX being in the game and stuff, there's way more chances to, at long range, just cancel 1 or more of his good. You're assuming you're rolling blacks. If you roll any doubles, get rid of those, or at the very least, re-roll them. And so that's kind of a lot of what you fish for with Sato, and that's becoming less and less reliable. It's kind of the Dodonna problem, right? Dodonna's fishing for crits. And Sato a lot of times is fishing for black crits too. And those are just less and less likely to land on ships with evades, PDX, scramblers, all that stuff, on top of the list building problem I already mentioned. So B tier for Sato, still good. I would recommend, he's kind of a high skill cap commander, and so I would recommend to anyone who wants to try something new or wants to kind of challenge themselves in game and list building, I think Sato's fun for that, but he's got a lot of limitations that's keeping him out of the top 2 tiers. Next up, another commander who got better in 1.5, and kind of a polarizing commander, if I'm being totally honest. We've got Garm Bel Iblis. I'm going to put him in A tier, and I think some people are probably thinking, yeah, that totally makes sense, and some people are probably thinking, that's crazy talk. I have never seen anyone ever play Garm Bel Iblis. And it's kind of fair. For a long time, I had never seen anyone play Garm either. He's kind of odd in that unless you specifically think to build around him, you don't often find yourself being like, which commander should I pick? Just going through the commanders. I got this kind of list archetype I like, but who do I pick for it? You don't really settle on Garm. And let me go through his ability here. After deploying fleets, plays 2 non-consecutive round tokens on this card. At the start of the ship phase during each round matching one of those tokens, each friendly ship may gain a number of command tokens equal to its command value. So, right off the bat, his buff was he used to have to do turns 1 and 5, which was kind of dumb. It definitely should be. You should definitely get to pick. Kind of like Tag. I mean, Tag, you're still going to do the same rounds, but Garm gives you way more flexibility depending on what kind of fleet you have, so that means he works in more fleets. In 1.5, with the tokens becoming way more important, Garm gets better, just directly, because you got to have tokens to refresh ECMs, you got to have tokens to refresh a lot of other upgrade cards. A lot of things, use tokens that didn't use them before. And so, with tokens becoming more and more important, Garm's ability looks better and better. Being able to grab large ships up to 3 tokens, that's really good. And so a lot of people I have found with Garm will do them either like turn 1 and 4. I've seen a couple people go like 1 and 3 if they're running a bunch of smalls and they think they're going to get in there and have fast combat. And I think he's very effective. I think he's better than Sato and better than a lot of other Rebel commanders because at 25 points, he's not that expensive. And what he gives you, you don't have to have parts or munitions resupply. You don't really have to have CommsNet or Hondo in a lot of cases. He just works really well with kind of easing the game for you, so to speak, where you don't have to worry so much about your token economy because Garm's like, hey, you know what? Rounds 1 and 4, I got you. All the tokens you need, whatever you want them to be. Obviously, you can only take 1 of each, but like if you want, everyone gets an av, and then some of them also get Confires, and you get repairs on your big guys. I just think with how good command tokens are in 1.5, Garm deserves A tier. Below Ackbar, not quite as good. It's close, but still deserves A tier. And a lot of really good top players have had great success with Garm. So there you go, buddy. A tier for you. Next up, we kind of got a bit of a spicy pick here. And this might surprise some people. Again, if Garm didn't, maybe this will. Leia Organa. I'm going to put the princess in B tier above Sato. And this is another one where people may be surprised, like, boy, I've never seen anyone play Leia. And pre 1.5, I don't blame you at all. 38 points is a monstrosity. Like, her ability has always been good, but 38 points was insane. Your comparison is Admiral Ackbar, who is always good, always relevant. Maybe boring, sure, but always relevant. 38 points for Leia, non-starter for a lot of people. You had some out there, in the Armada sphere, I think some of us may know who we're talking about here, who really had some good success with her, who really believed in her, but 38 points was a tough pill to swallow. Now at 28, she gets way more relevant, and I think she's good. Not amazing, not even really great, but she's good. She's really solid. So let me read off here. When a friendly ship resolves a command by spending a command dial, if it has not resolved another command this round, it may resolve that command as if it also spent a matching command token. If it does, that ship cannot resolve additional commands this turn, or this round, excuse me. So, kind of a lot to understand, to wrap your head around. I'll try to explain it as simply as I can. If you just spend a command dial, so you don't spend any other command tokens or don't get extra dials from other stuff, which I don't even know if Rebels can do, now that I think about it. But if you don't spend any command tokens, and you just spend the dial, you get to do it like you spent that dial and a corresponding token. So, if you just spend a Confire dial, you get to add a die and reroll a die. If you just spend a squad token, or a squad dial, you get to do, your normal squad value plus 1, like you spent the token, etc. And so, it's a very cool ability, and it lets you do some neat things. Lets ships that ordinarily wouldn't be able to do certain things be able to do those things, kind of like Hammerheads commanding squads, or liberties, being able to nav, like actually be able to move, stuff like that. Or do like a firing line with, I don't know, Nebulons, Hammerheads, stuff like that, and con fire all day. Have a grand old time. That's how I love to love to run Leia. It's a lot of fun. So her ability has always been good. Her cost coming down makes her relevant. Like I said, very solid commander. Again, this is another high skill cap one. You really have to know what you're doing, both in list building and in game, to actually get good use out of her. So probably not, baby's first Armada commander, but someone, again, I would recommend playing and learning if you want to kind of challenge yourself more in this game. I got to say, I was not happy to see her at LVO with Rasparodius. Kind of got my teeth kicked in there a little bit. I didn't do myself any favors, but she definitely was a factor in that game. And so I guess we're building a little bit of a vendetta there. Moving on to another one of the commanders who had some 1.5 changes, Mon Mothma. And she's another interesting case. I'll just go ahead and put her in. She's B tier. Good, not great. Worse, less good than Leia, a little bit less good than Sato, but still solid. And let me go through what she does here. So when a friendly ship resolves the evade token effect, it can cancel one die at medium range or re-roll one additional die at close range or distance 1. So face value, that's a pretty good ability. Evades got better, and she directly deals with evades. She does literally nothing for you at long range, which I'll get to as being one of the kind of drawbacks of her. But canceling one at medium, that's great. Rerolling an additional one at close, also great. So I think purely from an ability perspective, she's a really solid commander. And she's 27 points, so she's not too expensive. But the big thing that holds her back, and it's unfortunate that we've done them in this order, I just went with whatever order they were in. There's another commander in the game that exists at a similar price point that I think is just better. And whenever I go to build a list, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, let's build a Mon Mothma list. Let's try something different. I'll be building the list. I'll be choosing my ships. I'll be going through it, and then I'll start to think to myself, boy, why am I taking Mon Mothma again when there's someone else who kind of does the job better? And so it's kind of opportunity cost is what holds her back. Still solid. You can still have very good lists with her. Although another one of her problems is the ships she really likes, like MC-30s. She loves MC-30s. It's becoming harder and harder to justify running multiples of those in lists. Excuse me, I apologize for all the voice clearing. It's becoming harder and harder to justify running a lot of MC-30s together. One or two, absolutely. I still think it's a very solid ship. But Mothma lists used to be 3 MC-30s, 4 MC-30s. And that's just not super good anymore because black dice and crits and close range ships kind of got nerfed in 1.5. And so the types of lists she was really good in are not that great anymore. And there's someone else in the Rebel faction that kind of does her job better. She's, a defensive officer for small, fast ships that have evades. And there's someone who just does it better. And so I think based on those, she's in B tier. Still solid, still good, still worth playing, but not good enough to crack the top half. Next up, we have General Rieekan. Very difficult to spell that name if you don't know it. Rieekan. He's B tier. This guy, yeah, gosh, used to be the true terror of Armada back in the early days when he came out. There was some really stupid stuff he could do. I'll put it bluntly. He's really dumb, and he has been nerfed several times since then. A lot of them have been warranted. In 1.5, he got a points bump. He is now very expensive at 34 points. And like I said, the nerfs have been warranted, but they've kind of hit him. And he has fallen from grace in my eyes. He is still very good, top of B tier. Still a very solid commander. But not the terror he once was, and I think that's a good thing. I think he was just too good back in the day. But I still like Rieekan. So let me go through his ability quickly. Once per round, when a friendly ship or friendly unique squadron is destroyed, it remains in the play area and is treated as if it was not destroyed until the end of the status phase. It's a pretty cool ability. It used to be dumber than it is now. You used to be able to, like, with bigs, you could, like, move damage to zombie squadrons. And it used to be cheaper. But one of the cool things, or a couple of the cool things you can do with Rieekan that I don't know that if they're immediately apparent, is you can block really well with him. Fly your ship into the front of something that you want to hold in place. You know, even if your ship dies, it's going to stay there till the end of the status phase, so the ship you've blocked can't get away. That can be super relevant. Or you've got a unique squadron that's tying down some opposing squadrons. If it dies, no problem. It just keeps tying down those squadrons because it doesn't get removed till the end of the status phase. Worth noting, you can only do this once per turn, or excuse me, once per round. And so, what you kind of forces you into some tough decisions sometimes when you have two or more things that die at once that you'd really like to keep alive. But he's always been good because of that. You had the old Rieekan Ace Holes build, which I think is still decently relevant, where you just have you used to take a bunch of aces, now you can only take 4, but you take 4 Rebel Aces. Normally it's Biggs, Jan, and 2 other things, and then a bunch of escorts, most likely X-Wings. I think that's still a solid list, or you can do some cool things with hammerheads and guarantee that you're going to be able to get your Cham off, or guarantee you'll be able to get some Garel's Honor damage or something like that. So I think he's still really, really, really solid. But he, again, I've said this for everyone in B tier, he's not great anymore, in my opinion. He's too expensive to be in the top of the top, and while his ability is still very good and very relevant, he's just not as good as the people above him. So Rieekan sits firmly at the top of B tier. Next up, we've got Madine, and I will be straight up. Madine is the worst rebel commander. I don't know that that's going to surprise many people. I think that's pretty well understood at this point, that Madine's just not very good. And it's kind of like Dodonna. It makes me a bit sad because he's cool. He's very fun to play. He's got a cool ability, but at 30 points for what he does, it's just, you really have to try hard to justify taking him in a list. Let me just go through what he does. When a friendly ship resolves a navigate command, if it spent a nav dial, it may increase 1 additional yaw value by 1. If it spent a nav token, it may either change its speed or increase 1 yaw value by 1. So, makes your navs do more, which, hey, that's cool. You know, the best piece of advice you can give new players is always be navving. Once you learn the game, you can do other commands, but when you're new, always be navving, and Madine loves navving. It's all he does. And he's pretty cool for what he does, you know, being able to take extra yaw values, both with tokens and dials. That's pretty neat. It makes liberties able to dance. It allows you to do some cool stuff that, you know, your opponent's like, wow, you know, I didn't expect you to be there. It's kind of like Jerry in a way, where it lets you get to places your ship ordinarily wouldn't be able to get to, and I think that's really neat. The reason Jerry is one of the best commanders in the game and Madine is one of the worst is because Jerry doesn't require you to nav, and he's way cheaper. Madine's 30 points and requires that you be navving, and that really limits flexibility in lists when you have to be navving basically every turn, or at the very least have nav tokens on your ship. Your opponent can kind of tell what you're going to be doing most of the game. Now, if you want to get, you know, really into mind games, you could kind of use that to trick them, and you could almost never nav and always have confires and repairs lined up. But, you know, that's not ideal if you're spending 30 points to do some mind games. So I think because he locks you into basically doing one thing, and because he's 30 points, he is the commander in the Rebels that I am least likely to take. He's fun with liberties if you want to use them. I recommend using the Liberty just because it can really start to move. But he's just he's the worst of the bunch. Sorry, Madine. Next up, I've alluded to him a lot earlier in the video when I was talking about Mon Mothma. We've got Kraken. And Kraken, in my opinion, is top of A tier. I think he's really, really good, and he is not played enough, in my opinion. He's had a lot of success when he is played, but he just doesn't seem to be one that people gravitate to. And that's kind of understandable. You have to play him in a pretty specific way and build a kind of specific list. So let's see what he does. While a friendly smaller medium ship is defending against a ship, if the defender is at speed 3 or higher, the attack is treated as obstructed. So something I want to get out of the way right away, because it came up in the Imperial video and I had some questions about it. General Ramadi, one of the best commanders in the game, one of the most ubiquitous commanders in the game, can totally nullify Kraken's ability. Now, if the shot from Ramadi to a Kraken ship, going speed 3 or higher, is not obstructed by anything except Kraken's ability, then Kraken works. The Ramadi player removes the die. But if that shot is obstructed normally, like by another ship or an obstacle or something, then Ramadi's effect supersedes Kraken's effect, and Ramadi doesn't remove a die, and he gets to add the die. And so Kraken does nothing in that case. So kind of a niche case where Kraken can totally get ruined, but beyond that, he is excellent. I was talking about how Mon Mothma wants small, fast ships with evades. Kraken wants those exact same things, and he does it better. A, he's a point cheaper, whoop-de-doo. But B, he works at long range. And, in fact, he works at any range, the same at any range. And if you're already going to be running small, fast ships with evades, I mean, evades got better, so yes, that helps Mon Mothma, but that also helps Kraken. I mean, Kraken ships are even harder to kill now with the evade changes. And so, like I was talking about, whenever I go to build a Mon Mothma list, halfway through I think, boy, this would be probably a better list with Kraken, because then my ability works no matter where I am on the field. Onagers, extreme range attacks, Kraken is so good, because not only do you have newly buffed evade, but that shot's now obstructed, and so you're removing a die before the shot even happens. I think that is just such a phenomenal ability. Like I said, his limitations are, A, he can kind of get rolled by Ramadi in some niche cases, but B, you can only do him with small and medium ships, so I don't know why you'd ever run him in a list with a large. And he also has to be going speed 3, so you're kind of forced to play fast and loose. But he's really, really good with that. Running a bunch of CR90s, MC30s. You could have a surprisingly tanky list with him. And he works against salvo attacks. He works against squads. Or excuse me, he doesn't work against squads. My mistake. But he works against salvo attacks. And so, he... with salvo being so good, and the evade changes, like I said, he just got better in 1.5. And I think he is top of A tier, very good commander. I would like to see him flown more. And I would like to play him some more myself. Last up, we started with the red fish, and now we have the blue fish. And the blue fish is going to round out A tier for us. Raddus used to be one of my favorite commanders. I really, really liked him. You could do some cool stuff with Raddus, and you still can. He's still very good. Let me go through his ability quickly. Before deploying fleets, you may set aside one other friendly ship with a command value of 3 or less, so no Starhawks. At the start of any round, you may deploy that ship at distance 1 to 2 of you. That ship cannot be deployed overlapping squadrons and cannot be the first ship to activate that round. He actually got changed before 1.5, if memory serves. It used to be that you could Raddus in a ship at distance 1 of any of your ships that were already on the table. So what a lot of people would do is the very rarely used Quantum Storm title on a GR75. They would move fast and loose up the board with like a bunch of different ways, and you never knew where Raddus was going to pop out. They would give themselves options, and I thought that was really cool. That's when I really liked Raddus, because he was very flexible. He could be dropped from anywhere, just come out of hyperspace and ruin your opponent from anywhere. And now, you can only do it from the ship Raddus is on, he becomes way more predictable, way easier for your opponent to play around. And the fact that you can't deploy him overlapping ships or squads, your opponent can kind of protect themselves with a squad bubble if they want to. And so he, like I said, he becomes more predictable, which makes him a little bit worse. But 26 points, he's still not that expensive. His ability is still pretty good. He kind of only has like the one trick he can do now. Although, kind of a cool thing you could do is if you Raddus in an MC75, you can then profundity drop something like a Hammerhead, which can be cool. It's like nesting doll Raddus. It's a pretty cool little build, and he's a ton of fun to play, even in his now, I would say nerfed state. He's still a ton of fun to play, and I think I'm confident letting him round out the top 5. I would just say I think he used to be a bit better, and I think there are niche cases where you can lose your Raddus ship before it gets to drop, and that just feels terrible because now you've lost the ship that was in hyperspace. So he sometimes it can be a bit of a learning curve to learn to play him, but I still think he's very effective, a lot of fun, and if you're fun and you can be competitive, I think you deserve to be number 5. So here's my list. I don't think there's anything too controversial here, but as always, this is just my opinion. I've played Armada for a long time. I have flown each and every one of these commanders with and against them, but it is ultimately all subjective. And so if you have differing opinions, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how you would rank some of these commanders. If you agree, hey, that's fantastic. You and I are friends now. But this is what we got. So Kyrsta at the top, and Madine at the bottom, everyone else in between. The top 5, you can't go wrong with any of these guys. A lot of fun. Some of them are harder to play than others, but all very good. B tier, I would say, are all still competitive. And then Dodonna and Madine, kind of more for fun commanders at this point, or if you really want to challenge yourself. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching. I will go ahead and hopefully next weekend, we'll see how schedules allow. But I'm going to look to do tier lists for CIS and Republic. Let me know in the comments, would you, since there's only a few commanders, I think it's 6 per faction, do you want me to do, give each of them their own video, or do you guys want me to combine them together? Just let me know. But I'll hopefully be getting those videos out pretty soon, and then I should still be, looking to do some battle reports, other analysis content, maybe do some deep dives into some lists or some archetypes. But I look forward to doing some more tier lists in the future. Maybe we could do some officers, ship tier lists, squad tier lists, different upgrade tier lists. I know someone has been asking for an ion cannon tier list, just so we can put PDX at the top. I'm happy to do that down the road. I don't want to devolve, into just a channel that all I do is tier lists. So we'll try to, after we get through the commanders, we'll try to sprinkle them out a little bit. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. It's been great to see. And I will catch you all next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.